Welcome to this video where I summarize a book called Cashflow Quadrants. This is by Robert Kiyosaki. He's the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, but actually I like this book better. As a matter of fact, it's one of my two favorite books on investing. So I'm going to jump right in. First of all, he goes into the book and he starts questioning the education system. His biggest criticism of the education system was that it does not educate you about money, finances, or investing. Those are the tools needed by every person, regardless of what their profession is. And that's why he then became a student of education outside of the normal education system. First, make sure that you're on the right path. He talks about that, how your path could be years of school to become a doctor, followed by years of saving and investing. Your path could be less advanced education, but earning more money sooner. Your path could be to not work for someone else. Everyone has a different path for them, and you need to determine yours. Second, determine what quadrant you're in right now. And so he uses a quadrant called the Cashflow Quadrant, and it's where your cash flow comes from. And with that, there's four components. The top left is an E. That stands for an employee. In other words, your money comes from your job. You're an employee. On the bottom left is S. That stands for self-employed or a small business owner. In other words, you own a job and you're making money, but if you're not there, you don't make anything. Good examples of this include attorneys, accountants, dentists, doctors, even people mowing the grass for a living. If they don't show up to do their job, they don't make money. That's a small business. In the top right of the quadrant is a B for big business. This is where you own a system that works for you, whether you're there or not, okay? Big business. And this is what some of the wealthiest people on earth have made their money by doing, is owning a big business. In the bottom right quadrant are people that get their cash flow as an investor. In other words, your money is working for you. So from his book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, he often refers to the advice he got from his natural dad. He was an educator who eventually worked in government his whole life. He made good money, but he never became rich. He refers to the father of his best friend as his rich dad. He did not follow the traditional path and even go to college or get a job, work 40 years and retire. He took a different path, and that enabled him to become rich. The advice he received from his poor dad was get a job, become an employee. The advice he received from his rich dad was get to the B and the I quadrants, big business and investment quadrants, as soon as possible. This book is written for people who want to change quadrants. And that's really all in the introduction. The book is then laid out into three parts. Part one goes through the core differences between the people in each quadrant. Part two goes into what you have to be instead of what you have to do. Part three is how to find success on the right side of the quadrant. And so that could be either the big business or the investment side of cash flow. Financial intelligence is what moves you from the left side to the right side. So each of these categories are based on where your cash flow comes from. So you might be getting cash flow from just one category, or you could be getting cash flow from 2, 3, or all 4 categories. Understanding each of them and how you move through them will really help you on your journey to financial freedom. So let's look at each one in more depth before we talk about how to move through them. So the E, you're an employee. You have a job. Whether it's full-time or part-time, 1099 or W-2, it's a job. You get paid for your time, or maybe you get paid for your results. Your efforts contribute to somebody else's business. For most people, this is their only source of cash flow. So the S is self-employed or small business. Basically, you own a job. And again, that could be a lawyer, accountant, small business owner. You may have employees, but the success of the company depends on you. That's an S. Again, the B is for a business owner, and that's a big business. So you own a system that works for you. Leaders who delegate and bring out the best in others are the ones who can own a business where they're getting cash flow and other people are running that business. And again, finally, I, that's investor, that's your money working for you. They make money with money. So one of the most important distinctions in business is understanding the difference between an S, a small business, and B, a big business. So if you have a lawn mowing business and that's just you own a job, that's an S. If you have a business that cannot function without you, you've got a job. That's a small s. That's an S, small business. If you have a business that can function without you, then you have a big business, a system that's running and generating cash flow with or without your help. There is a huge difference between these two. Not only does the big business give you the freedom to work if and when you want, but the business can be sold. Think about that. Would somebody pay you money for a business that's making $10,000 of profit a month and they did not have to run it? Absolutely. Would someone pay you for a lawn mowing business that would require them to mow the lawns? Not likely. That may be an extreme example, but hopefully you get the point. And that's why Kiyosaki refers to the E and the S on the left side as active and the B and the I on the right side as passive cash flow. Another way to look at it, Kiyosaki describes the world as a system. The E works for the system, the S is the system, the B creates, owns, and controls the system, and the I invests money into the system. One question he addresses in the book that comes up a lot is this: why aren't more people investors in that bottom right quadrant? There are several reasons. First of all, some people are risk adverse and prefer the perceived safety of having a job. They are too afraid of losing money, so they play it safe with their money in bank accounts. Or they like too much risk, and their money goes to gambling or speculative investments. And I'll add one more that's not in the book. Some people just do not think they can do it. They don't think that they can survive on passive cash flow just from their investments. So whether they do not think they can grow their money enough, or whether they think they don't have the skills, becoming an investor seems out of reach to them. He has an entire chapter dedicated to why people choose security over freedom. It's a great chapter with several reasons, such as mindset, debt, and other reasons, as well as several great stories of average people like firefighters and teachers who became multimillionaires and how they did it. This next chapter talks about the 3 types of business systems that people can use to create financial freedom. They include traditional companies, where you develop the systems, franchises, where the systems are provided to you, and network marketing, where you buy into a system. He also talks about the 5 things that happen to people who do not invest or who invest poorly. They work hard all their lives. They worry about money all their lives. They depend on others, such as family, company pension, or government, to take care of them. They have boundaries of their lives that are defined by money, and they will not know what true financial freedom is. He then addresses the 5 levels of investors, and I really like this part. So try and identify where you are within these 5 levels. So level 1, zero financial intelligence. And sadly, many people are here. They just don't know anything about investing. Level 2, he calls it the savers are losers level. And what he means by that is people save money in a bank, but it does not even keep up with inflation. Therefore, over time, they're actually losing money. So they may have thousands or tens of thousands of dollars sitting in a savings account or even a CD that's earning 2 or 3 or 4%, but inflation is more than that, and they're actually losing money over time. So he calls that savers or losers. That's level 2. Level 3, and there's a lot of people at this level, he calls it the I'm too busy level. This type of investor abdicates investing responsibility to their 401k plan or their financial advisor or to someone else. So they have money, they're investing, but they take no active role in understanding what they're investing in. They just do whatever their advisor suggests that they do. He calls that the I'm too busy level. That's level 3. Level 4 is the I'm a professional level. These investors take a course or 2 or more, and they become do-it-yourself investors. Perhaps they trade stocks, perhaps they buy a house and rehab it themselves, or maybe they manage the tenants themselves. So they're investing and they're learning, but they're still on the do-it-yourself level. That's level 4. Level 5, he calls the capital level. He describes this as a business owner from the B quadrant investing in the I quadrant. These are educated people who have gained an education in financial literacy, who understand buying and selling businesses, and they buy those businesses, those systems that generate passive cash flow. That's level 5. So while level 4 and 5 can appear similar, here are the key differences. The S quadrant investors use his own money, The B quadrant investors use OPM, or other people's money. The S quadrant investors often are solo investors. The B quadrant investors invest with a team. The S quadrant investors often pay higher taxes than the B quadrant investors, and the S quadrant investors often have difficulty raising money while the B quadrant investors do not. Interestingly enough, the larger the dollars involved in a transaction, it actually becomes easier to raise the money. So try and identify what level of investor you are between 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. He then has some important chapters on understanding the basics of business financial statements, the mindset to understand money, and how to be the bank, not the banker. In part 3 of the book, he goes into how to move through the quadrants to become a successful B and a successful I. He then concludes with the 7 steps to your financial fast track. Step 1, mind your own business. Basically, you are a business with income and with expenses, and your business should have financial statements and be treated like a business. 2, take control of your cash flow. People who cannot control their cash flow work for those who can. Step 3, know the difference between risk and risky. Business and investing are not risky, but being undereducated is. As a matter of fact, he shares a great analogy here that I like. He compares it to flying. He said, is flying risky? Well, if you don't know anything about flying and you're the pilot, that's really risky. But somebody who knows what they're doing and is an educated pilot with years of experience, flying is very safe. And investing is the same way. He says it's risky if you don't know what you're doing. And so that's why he really stresses the financial literacy. Step 4, decide what kind of investor you want to be. Start small and learn to solve problems, and then work towards bigger and bigger investments. Step 5, seek mentors. A mentor is someone who tells you what is important and what is not. Find someone who has been there. Step 6, make disappointment your strength. Inside every disappointment is a priceless gem of wisdom. And step 7, the power of faith. The only person who determines the thoughts you choose to believe about yourself is you. So, in summary, begin building pipelines of cash flow to support you and your family. My company is called Infinite Passive Assets, and if you've seen much of our content, you know how relevant this book is. This has nearly 300 pages of wisdom on how to build passive cash flow, and that's why it's one of my 2 favorite books on investing. The other is called The Richest Man in Babylon. So not only do I encourage you to read this book frequently, but I encourage you to take the advice in this book and implement it. This book is a starting point for how to change your financial life. It can launch you in the direction of financial freedom. Before I finish the video, please take a second to like the video. If you haven't already, please subscribe so you get more fresh content on how to build passive cash flow. Finally, if you have any family or friends who would like to improve their financial position, please share this video with them. Thanks, and I appreciate that.